My name is DeAndre Cunningham, and I'm going to talk to you about out-of-school suspension and in-school suspension. Starting with the article by Neil Bloomberg, Effective Discipline for Misbehaviors in School versus Out-of-School Suspension. She begins her article talking about how the classroom actually facilitates how students interact with one another and how it somewhat dictates how the classroom would go. Setting good ground-based rules in the classroom would provide a more of a stable environment for the students. Now, disciplinary action is introduced when students begin to violate or break those rules, which starts the process of in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension. In-school suspension still has that school environment, and it still has that somewhat of a teacher/caregiver in the area to assist them with any of their work. And it's like an area where they could just like take a little break from the influences or the disturbances of the other students. Now, in-school suspension is for when that student is the disturbance, which you can interpret that as you will. The more serious offense or more violent the student usually ends them in out-of-school suspension. And I say usually because out-of-school suspension is dictated by who is giving them the out-of-school suspension, which is crazy. Out-of-school suspension kind of just, it doesn't promote the same effect as in-school suspension, because out-of-school suspension, the student more than likely won't even care, and they'll just return to those influences that dictate how they act in class. Educator Skiba R.J. Peterson even says that out-of-school suspension does not promote better behavior, and then it is quite oftenly misapplied and unfairly used against minorities. Now, the reason she states that is because she found Linda M. Rachel in 2002, who conducted a large survey in Florida school district. And out of 146,000 students, the survey tallied up to be that more black males were more frequently suspended from school. And it even goes on to say that it was 2 times as likely for black males to get suspended than the white counterpart. Now, you have to understand that the numbers, because there was about like 4 million white students enrolled, and about like 500,000 of them were getting suspended. Now, compared to the other ratios of like Hispanic or Indian, Black, Asian, it was, for black students, it was about like 3 million. It was like 3 million. And like over half of them were getting suspended. So the ratios were off. And it was more disproportionate with black students. And then it later on goes to say on how ineffective OSS is. Educators Constanbar and Markson surveyed 252 students, so it was kind of a small survey. And it was in Virgo, horrible pronouncing. And it said 32% say that they were more than likely to be suspended again. And then 55% were angry with the person that suspended them. And then 69% said there was no use for them getting OSS. And these percentages are like 32 say that they're going to get suspended again. So then like the other 68 were like, no, they're not going to get suspended again. I just want y'all to understand percentages because it was kind of weird when I was going over it. And it only got worse during the zero tolerance when it was introduced, because Chicago Public Schools introduced the zero tolerance, and OSS increased by 50% And the numbers were showing that those were primarily Black and Hispanic students when it kicked off. Now, Black and the minorities are usually in a lower societal economics, which makes them more liable to do more illegal activity or something just looked down upon. That's just because of how the outside influences their character. Now, I believe that OSS should have an investigation as to why that student should be suspended outside of school, because it just doesn't make sense that a teacher or whoever the disciplinary actor is given on that student can just have a reasonable cause and then just a note and a phone call home gets the student sent. I believe there should be more consideration coming to disciplinary action.